I want to thank everybody for being here for the workshop. I know it's a Saturday, and I know people have probably super fun plans on Saturday, so we really appreciate you coming out here and joining us for this. To give a quick intro about what Goalie is, I know some people said that they never really heard of Goalie. So overall, our goal is to serve and help families with neurodiverse children. The way that we initially started doing that was we made technology for kids and parents. A scheduler. It's like a visual scheduler that we'll talk about maybe a little bit later. If you want to check it out, you can go to our website, which is www.goalie.co. However, we kind of realized semi-recently that our help for families with neurodiverse children shouldn't really stop with our product. And that kind of is the rationale and the creative idea behind these workshops here. We know during COVID, it may be harder to schedule hours with your BCBA or therapist. It may be harder to be in some of those coffee shop support groups with other families that deal with similar things. So we wanted to put together an online space where we brought in an awesome BCBA like Rachel to talk about a topic that you guys would find helpful and relevant. Today we're talking about, it's titled Getting Your Kiddos to Wear That Pesky Mask, and we'll be talking about all things related to COVID, how to get your child to social distance and accept those guidelines. And our presenter today, she already gave a pretty cracking introduction herself, but is Rachel. She's been a licensed BCBA for over 8 years. Before that, as she said, she worked as a teacher, and to top it all off, she is a loving mother of 2 children. And we're really excited for her to give this presentation. Our format is probably going to be something like a 20-minute presentation and 30 minutes of Q&A questions. If you have any questions at any time, even if it's right now, feel free to type them into the chat box so that when we start Q&A, we have a good list of 5 or 6 to get ready. I think that's about all I have on this end. We're excited to hop into the presentation, and Rachel, please take it away.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I'm so glad to see you all here. And yeah, today we're talking about tackling, those mask wearing woes from a lot of parents of all types of kids. I have heard concerns and challenges that parents are facing as far as getting their kid to start wearing this new accessory that we are all being asked to wear, and it's for the safety of everyone, and so it's really an important thing. So let's get started. So here are some of the new requirements that we've had this year. The CDC recommends that anybody that is over the age of 2, should be wearing a mask. And now there are some exceptions, and I'm sure you all are aware of that, but masks should not be worn by children that are younger than 2 years old. If you have trouble breathing, then a mask is definitely not something that you should be wearing. And then also if you're unconscious, incapacitated, or unable to remove the mask safely without assistance, those are some instances where you should not wear a mask. Now, on the CDC website, it also mentions some instances where, masks, it may be better just to remove the mask and then talk to a medical professional about making a plan for appropriate mask wearing. And I think that is the category that a lot of parents fall into right now that are seeking help with promoting mask wearing. So, if your kid is chewing on their mask or wearing it inappropriately, or, taking it apart and things like that, then at that point, it might be important to come up with a plan to then teach mask wearing. And so another new requirement is school. Now this, I didn't even put anything underneath this because it is so there's a vast array of different requirements that are expected at schools across the country. A lot of schools are going all virtual. I know here in Nashville, most schools are starting virtually, or there's some sort of hybrid, or it's only for kids of a certain age that are going in person. But regardless of the situation, if you're attending school in person, there's likely going to be some expectation of mask wearing. And that includes not only the children actually wearing the masks, but children also interfacing with other people who are wearing masks. So I know for some kids that can be a challenge, is following directions from someone who is wearing a mask. If they have a hard time with like tolerating other people wearing a mask, that can be an issue as well. And then there are also the community expectations. So even if you're homeschooling or doing virtual school, there are still situations where society is going to expect that your child be wearing a mask. So at grocery stores, at doctor visits, or even community outings, like some of their favorite places, going to a toy store or going to the zoo. Even if you can socially distance, a lot of those places have their own internal requirements for mask wearing. And so that's something to think about and be aware of, and try to prepare your children for those situations. So here are some of the common issues that I've heard. Just flat out refusal is the first one. So just not wearing the mask. A lot of complaining about wearing the mask. And then there are the tantrums. So a wide variety of behaviors. Tantrums can look very different from one kid to the next. But ultimately they're not wearing a mask usually if they're engaging in a tantrum. Then there's improper wearing. So, just wearing it under their chin or over their mouth, but not over their nose as well. And then there's chewing. So, people chewing on their masks. That's another issue that I've heard of quite frequently. So that being said, if you're facing any of these issues, it's kind of hard to know where to start. So that's what we're here to help you with today, coming up with a strategy for really approaching mask wearing. So the first step that I think is really critical is making it personal to your child, and really getting their buy-in by including them in the selection process. So the more involved your child is in picking out their mask, and making it something that they actually chose themselves, the more likely they are to be sold on it when it comes time to actually put it on. So I think, as parents, it's really easy for us to say, I'm just going to go get this for my kid because it's something that they need. But if you want it to be something that they're actually going to wear, getting their input is a really vital step. Now, options really are out there. There are a wide variety of different patterns. I've seen masks out there created by Disney with special characters. There are a lot of different fun children masks that have been generated out there, because I think a lot of people have seen this as a potential issue and they want to make it fun for kids. So definitely do your homework as far as something that might fit what your child is interested in. There are lots of different colors, and there are also a variety of styles. So, some parents try just one style of mask and it doesn't work. And so they say, well, my kid just won't wear this mask, and they kind of stop there. I would encourage you to, get their input in trying a couple different types of masks. There are quite a few different styles. Some are more effective than the other, but I think anything is better than nothing. So for some kids, a net gaiter is a great solution, or a great compromise, especially for those that have a lot of sensory issues. So really work with their preferences and try to find a style that works for your kid. And same with fit. So some masks fit very close to the face, while some have a little bit more room around the ears, and they also have ones that are adjustable behind the ears. So take that into account. It could just be that it's too tight or it's falling off and it's too loose for them. So think about that also when you're finding an appropriate mask. And then the fabric type. So I know personally, I've had masks that are like a really thick cotton, and those I have a hard time wearing, but for like a surgical medical mask, that is comfortable for me. Or I've also seen fabric that is made out of swimsuit material, and it's effective, and it also is a lot more comfortable to wear. So I know a lot of gym instructors that end up wearing those because it's something that works in the environment that they're in a lot. So, think about different types of fabric that might work well for your child as well. And then if the perfect mask is not out there for your child, so your child has some really particular interests and nothing else is going to work, try to make an experience of it and make their own mask. So I actually got this idea from my sister. She's a high school teacher and she has 4 children, and she did a tie-dye with her kids as kind of a celebration to get them excited about going to school and having, to wear a mask at school. So they, I think at Walmart, she was able to get just plain white cotton masks, and she made a project out of it. So they tie-dyed, and then she also, for her younger kids, she had fabric markers so they could doodle their own designs, and then they can sport something that they're proud of because they've created it when they get to school. So that's something to think about as well. For those of you who have had success in getting your child excited about their mask, I'd love to hear what type of mask you ended up going with, or what really, sold them on making it feel like it was their own. So feel free to drop that in the comments. So, and as you go through this, I think it's important to keep in mind that finding the best fit, it might require some trial and error. So, don't be afraid if something is just not working out and your child is constantly having some sensory issues with a particular mask. That's okay. Just try something new. You don't have to stick with what you've picked first. That is totally fine. All right, so the second way that you can really help your child, with mask wearing is build in choice. So, once that initial selection of masks is made, it's important to regularly offer options. So, when it comes time to actually putting the mask on, offer 2 or 3 masks to choose from. So have a variety still. So when it's time, you could say, would you like to wear your blue mask, or would you like to wear your red mask today? Give them an option so they feel like they have some wiggle room. And then you can also give them a choice when they put it on. So something that works really well with my daughter is, I tell her, you can put your mask on in the car, or you can put the mask on when you step out of the car. So she's still putting her mask on, but I'm letting her choose when she puts it on. Obviously, I'm not going to give her a choice that involves, after she's in the store or whatever. But she has some choice up until that point. And then you can also give a choice as to how they put it on. So an example that I use often is, you can do it yourself, or I can help you. That's a common one that I fall back on, and it really does work, because if they really don't want your help, then they will do it themselves. But if they don't want to do it, or just having a hard time with it, it gives them the option to say, okay, I want you to help me with this. And then you can also give them a choice as to what they do while they have it on. So, hey, I like that you have your mask on. Now you can hold my hands, or you can, help me push the cart. So giving them something that's incompatible with, taking their masks off, giving them something to do with their hands instead of telling them what not to do, can really go a long way as well. So, but ultimately, all of those options and choices, they have something in common, and that is the same big picture result. So the end result of that is going to be your child wearing the mask. As many options and choices as you can give can really go a long way. but don't ever, give the option of just not wearing it. So, and this is really powerful. Choices really can help provide autonomy and control within appropriate limits. I think some of us, feel like if we give a choice, then the choice is their way or my way, and it doesn't have to be like that. As parents, you're the ones who are setting the boundaries, and you can give choices within those boundaries. And more often than not, there's going to be some way to present some sort of choice, and it still be within those limits. So that's something important to keep in mind. Okay, so another really valuable tool is setting and communicating clear expectations. So I don't know about you, but when I'm going somewhere, I like to know in advance what's going to be expected. If I don't know what's coming, that kind of stresses me out and makes me a little anxious. So the more that we can provide, those clear expectations for our kids before we're in the situation, the less anxious and more smooth it's going to be. So let your child know when exactly they need to wear the mask. So before you get in the situation, say, hey, we're going to go to Target today after lunch, and you're going to need to wear your mask while you're in the store. And then we can say, when can you remove your mask? So when we get back in the car, you can take your mask off. And then, letting them know roughly what to expect as far as how long. Obviously, you don't want to give an expectation that is going to be something that you can't actually promise. But, if you know that you're going to be in there for a little bit longer than usual, make sure that they know that. Or if it's just going to be a quick trip and you're running in there for 2 things, say, hey, this is going to be a short trip. So, you won't have to have it on for a very long time. And then also let them know how to communicate the need for a break. I think sometimes we get stuck in thinking or just forgetting this piece. And then if a kid does really feel like they need to take a break or take it off, they don't know what to do. And so they kind of freeze up and then end up engaging in problem behaviors to communicate how they're feeling. And instead of just leaving it to chance and then having them, melt down and have, a tantrum, it's helpful to set an expectation as to how to express that on the onset. So, you can tell them, hey, if we are at the zoo and you really feel like, you're having a hard time with your mask, tell mom, and we can find some place to go that is away from people, and we can take a minute mask break. So that sets them up for success a lot more than if you don't tell them what to do when they're feeling like they're having a hard time, because then they're just going to end up melting down. So yeah, the key to this is communicating explicitly and clearly before the problems start. Setting them up for success before you get in that situation. And that sometimes that takes practice, but the more that you do that, the more better prepared everyone is going to be for, avoiding those problems, because that's really the ultimate goal. Okay, so this is another thing that can kind of help with those expectations. So visual supports, they often help reinforce and reiterate those expectations that you're setting for your kid. One tool that I really love that is beneficial to a lot of kids is a first then board. So it's a very simple, it could be as simple as something on your phone. I've seen apps before that are just first then, and you can put a picture of what comes first and what comes after. You could also just write it on a piece of paper, draw a picture of a mask for first, and then have that be something that's highly preferred for your kid. So, for my daughter, for instance, she loves going to the park. So, if we are going to a situation where she's going to be expected to wear a mask, I can say, okay, first you're going to wear your mask at Target, and then we'll go on a walk outside. And you don't have to, in an environment where she wouldn't have to wear a mask. Or it could be something like a special treat, like a popsicle, or a fun activity at home with you. So, kind of think about what, they would be motivated by, and include that in that visual. And that can help also diffuse conversation. So, if your kid is having a hard time with their mask and starts to take it off, and you're in that public environment, instead of it being a big conversation and things like that, you can just point to the visual, and that can kind of take you out of the picture a little bit and make it more of a reminder. Oh, that's right. These are the rules, and that can work really well. Something else that can work is a visual timer. So, especially if a kid is having a hard time wearing a mask for a longer period of time. So, I know Goalie, we have a timer on our app, but not everybody has a Goalie. So if you don't have that, there are visual timers that you can have on your phone. There are apps for that, or you could carry around a physical timer that shows the passing of time. So you can say, hey, when this timer fills up, and you can see the picture or whatever, then you can take your mask off. So that's great, especially for kids who are working on, building up how long they can tolerate wearing a mask. And then the last type of visual is a little bit different, and this is a visual of their progress. So I know personally, I love to see a visual of how I'm improving and things like that. And that can be a very powerful tool for kids as well. So they love to see, oh, I'm working towards something. I'm, all of my hard work is reflected in this graph. So you could create like a sticker chart, or make a graph project out of it, and track how long your kid wore a mask, or how well they did it, or how many days in a row they wore a mask without having a meltdown, things like that. There are a lot of different creative ways that you can do that, and you could put that someplace prominent, like in the kitchen or whatever, that where they're constantly reminded of, oh, okay, I'm working towards something. Okay, so yeah, visuals, they make expectations and concepts that are a little bit more abstract, like time, more concrete for your kids, and that can help them understand the situation. And on this slide, we see example of a first then board. So this first screen, or this first section, is something that's less preferred, that you'd like them to do. In this instance, we're talking about wearing a mask, and then would be something that's more highly preferred. So in this instance, it says playtime. We call this the grandma's rule, or the Premack principle, but basically, if you can follow something that is not enjoyable or not preferred by your kid, with something that they really enjoy, that can help reiterate and reinforce that work that they're putting into the first thing. All right, the next point is keep it fun. Sometimes I think we all forget this, but it's important to associate or pair it with a favorite activity or item, instead of just having them slap on a mask to go do something like grocery shopping, which might not be their favorite thing to do. First start at home with something that they really love doing, with, maybe have them do it. If they really love video games or they love coloring, have them start practicing wearing their mask with that special fun activity. and try to reserve, that one particular favorite activity or treat for mask wearing occasions only when you're starting it off. So if you selected video games, for instance, try to save playing video games only for moments where your child is wearing a mask at the onset of this anyway. So if you do that, they'll learn, hey, if my mask is on, sorry, if my mask is on, it's party time. I get to do this really fun thing. As soon as my mask comes off, that game is going to stop, or that fun activity that I was doing is going to end. So if you continue to do that and start small and build your way up, that can really help get over that initial resistance, because they see, hey, I want to do that fun thing. So, wearing a mask, if that's all that I have to do to, be able to play my video game, then I'll have a fun time with that. And if you do this strategy, I would say have a plan to fade it out as your child gets better at mask wearing. So, don't always have them wear a mask when they are, having that fun treat or whatever. But also you can up the requirement. So, okay, first you have to wear your mask for, 5 minutes before you can get a popsicle, kind of thing. And then build up from there. And then I think another element of having fun is modeling positive behaviors and language about masks at home. So you can have your kids, dress up dolls or different toys. This boy has a stuffed animal with a mask on. You're modeling that, hey, like, we all can wear masks, and it's kind of a fun game. And then also having positive language about it when it's time for us to put a mask on. I know. I wear my mask, but I don't always love it. And sometimes it's easy to fall into complaining within your kid's ear reach. So, be aware of what you are saying whenever they're around, and try to model a positive outlook when you're talking about putting on your mask. So, that could look like, oh, it's time for me to put on my mask. I'm really excited. I'm going to pick my blue mask because that's my favorite color. And when I put this mask on, it makes me look like a superhero. Don't you think? Isn't this fun? If you really talk it up like that, then that seems more appealing than, oh, it's time for me to go to work. I have to wear my mask. I really hate this thing. Let me complain about it. I can't breathe when I have it on. If that's what they're hearing, they're not going to be as excited to put a mask on themselves. So just be aware of that and try to model a positive outlook. That can go a long way for sure. And then the last thing is, starting small. So I think it's important to manage our own expectations as a parent or a teacher. Instead of an all or nothing approach, like they're either going to wear their mask or they're not. Take a look at where they're at, and really do a true assessment. Will they wear it for at least a second, or is it just not at all? And then set some small achievable goals from there. And then I think it's also important to prioritize when they wear a mask. So it doesn't have to be, anytime we go out in public all the time, right off the bat, they have to wear a mask. Maybe select those moments where it's a lot harder to socially distance and start with one or two of those type of things. And then you can expand to where you would ideally have them wear a mask in public. But make a true priority of the situations that are the most concerning for your child. And then, you might want to start with having them simply touch their mask, and then work their way up to tolerating having it, near them, or wearing it for a short amount of time, and then, slowly building up as they get better and more confident at each level. So work up strategically for that, for sure. And I think it's important to remember that this is a new skill. So for most of us, we have not been wearing masks for, years and years. This is something that is very new to us and definitely for our kids. So it's important to keep in mind that it can be really challenging for your child and to give them some grace in those situations. And then remember to catch them, doing the right thing. So try to find the smallest win, and reinforce that win. So give them a lot of praise. Hey, I like that you chose a mask. That's wonderful. Okay, that's great. I like that you were wearing your mask over your nose and your mouth. That is so wonderful. Even if the reality is they only had it on for a very short amount of time, try to catch the smallest win, and that will build momentum. So, as a recap, some helpful things that can really make mask wearing less stressful is, making it personal for your kid, building in choice and options whenever you can, within appropriate boundaries, setting clear expectations and making sure that those are communicated. Adding a visual element can really help, and then also keep it fun, make it something that is pleasant and exciting for your kid, and then try to start small. So meet your kid where they're at, and it doesn't have to be an all or nothing kind of situation. So that is that. Now is the part of the presentation where we're going to chat about any questions that you guys have. And I'd love to hear if anybody has any comments as well.
Quickly, I just want to thank Rachel for the presentation. I thought that was awesome. It was also very pretty. I like the presentation as well, and the visual. So like Rachel said, we are going to transition into questions now. And I don't know if you can see some of these, Rachel, but I'm happy to read them for you if that's better. But we have a couple of questions coming in. And
Sure.
our first one is about it's about then first then language, and so it's from Sam, I believe, who said that I like first then language. Is that better to use than something like good choice then language? And then says they've tended to use that and it works well for Caleb most of the time, but will it be more limiting long term? And if Samuel, you want to expand on that question, you can feel free to unmute or type something else, but that's the question from Samuel.
Yeah, so I think when you just say first, then it kind of takes the option out of the first thing that needs to be done, and it takes that element of like, this is a good choice versus a bad choice. Sometimes there are multiple choices that are good, and sometimes there are multiple choices that are bad, and that can be kind of confusing. So I think it's a lot more straightforward for in those kind of situations to say first do this and then do that. That tends to go a little bit better in my experience than when it's saying just good choice and then if that makes sense. In my experience with most of my clients and also my own kids, it just makes it a little bit more straightforward and simple for them as well.
That was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem, Sam.
Next, this is kind of a point from Jana, but I think it leads well into a question. Jana said that what she does, she points out people that her son looks up to that are wearing a mask, and includes people like friends, family, police officers, bus drivers, construction workers, et cetera, et cetera. And Rachel, that kind of reminded me of that whole pairing thing we're talking about, right? Like trying to pair the idea of mask wearing with fun or something that's cool or people that you look up with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's also a perfect example of modeling a positive outlook and modeling good behavior. Sometimes it takes someone who isn't mom and dad, especially as kids get a little bit older and cooler. Sometimes it takes like having a peer or someone who they really respect who's not a parent, that can be an even better way to model that outlook. So that's a great example, Jan. I'm glad that you brought that up.
And our next question comes all the way from Spain, I believe, from Stefina. And she asked, what is your opinion about shaping the behavior in the home? I know it's something you talked about a little bit, Rachel. Is it bad to wear a mask and give reinforcements in an environment that masks aren't really necessary to wear in your own house? And is that giving the wrong idea, or is it something that actually builds the behavior?
Yeah. So with shaping new behaviors, I think it is best to teach them initially in an environment that where they feel safe, and where you can practice regularly. I think starting at home and doing it with fun things, and then once they've mastered it at home, in a safe environment, where if they do take it off, it's not going to be like a huge struggle or anything like that. Then you can generalize that skill to outside the home, and maybe start small again when you are outside the home. But I think also as a parent, when you're teaching a kid a new skill, I think it's a lot more stressful on us and harder to keep it together when you are out in public. I think it's a little bit easier for us to keep calm and maintain control of our responses when we are at home and we don't feel the judgment of other parents or the store clerk and stuff like that. Trying to juggle both of those things can be really challenging. So I think just starting where that you can keep it together and follow through with the plan, and your child can be safe in the process of learning that skill at home, can be a really good place to start. And then as they get better at it and you're working towards they're generalizing that skill to outside the home, then you can fade out how often you practice at home. I think that's totally fine. But that is a healthy concern. I understand kind of where you're coming from there.
And then we have another question that talks about, it refers back to the part about providing choices and trying to make it fun for your kid. And it's, do you recommend maybe bringing multiple masks, like different colors, or maybe like one superhero, one dinosaur mask, and then having a scheduled time and saying, hey, we're going to switch after 30 minutes of wearing your mask? Is that something that you recommend?
Yeah, I think that's a great strategy. So, having those backups as tools in your tool belt where you can offer choices and you're not just kind of stuck without an option to give. I think that shows like great forward thinking, and that can, really help empower your child to feel like, oh, I do have an option here. It's not just like me wearing this mask that I don't like anymore or taking it off. Like I can wear a different one. That's awesome. So that's a great example of a choice that's within appropriate boundaries. So I love that.
Well, that is all the questions that were posed to us. And we have about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
So, because we're scheduled to go to about 1:45. Before, if anybody has any other questions, of course, feel free to type them in. But I again want to thank everybody for coming here and say that we're doing these workshops about every 2 weeks. And Rachel will be presenting 2 more topics coming up, which is super exciting. So if you want to check out and sign up for any further workshops, you can go to our website. Again, that's www.goalie.co. And once you do, you'll see a workshop page that has all of our upcoming workshops that are totally free to sign up to, and all the topics that we're talking about. So if you enjoyed this one, we would love for you to join us in the future as well. And check it out.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone.